Hello everyone, my name's Suzanne and I call myself a gardening and cut flower enthusiast, and I garden and have my cut flower patch in Devon in the UK. And in this week's video we're going to be talking a little bit about rabbit proofing your garden. My cottage garden is sort of rabbit proof, but my cutting garden really needs to be completely rabbit proof. I know last year it was pretty good, but there were a few areas where the odd rabbit got in. You join me on an absolutely glorious day, and we've not got such a glorious job that I need to do, but the fence is getting there now. The stock fence has been put up, professionally put up. The reason I did that was because I do keep stock, so there will be horses and sheep grazing next to the garden, so I really needed a really structurally sound fence that they're not going to get caught up in or anything like that. So that's the posts and the stock netting. Then what I will now do myself is go along and put in the wire, which I'll dig a trench and dig in, which is the rabbit netting. That's a job which, you know, it doesn't have to be that neat and tidy, it just needs to be functional. So that's my job that I'd like to try and finish today, but we'll see. It's one of those jobs, a bit like taking the staples out of the fence. I don't really want to do it, but there's no point in growing all these lovely flowers if I'm just going to let the rabbits eat them. And on that note, I had a bit of a miserable week last week. It's silly, but if you're watching my channel, you'll get it. My lovely Ammi Majus, I had some in the garden, the frost got them, fair enough. But I've been showing off about them in other videos, the ones in my cold frame, how well they were doing. Well, I started hardening them off, didn't I? Which meant opening my cold frame. And you probably know where this is going. A rabbit went in the cold frame and just, I mean, you wouldn't even know there was anything in the pot. If you dig your finger around, you can just find the stalk. That's it. I've got no autumn sown Ammi Majus now, and I made it right to the end of March. That, you know, I was hardening them off, ready to go out. So I'm gutted. So I've just sown some more, which I would have done anyway for another succession. But, you know, they're tiny little seedlings. It'll teach me for boasting about how I had my Ammi Majus that made it through the winter. Yeah, I should be a lot more careful next year. So anyway, let's go and start digging a trench and looking at this fence. Okay, so my cold frame used to be here, where this box hedge is. And obviously it's not in a rabbit-proof area at all. So this is just stock fence. And you can almost see tracks where rabbits, and there's even some digging in there, some fresh earth. So the rabbit has just hopped out of there, hopped into my open cold frame and eaten my plants. So I've decided the cold frame can't go there anymore. So I thought I'll plant a nice little hedge. And I also made myself a nice new sign. I'm not very artistic, so I'm quite pleased with that. So then going into the garden, I've now made space for the cold frame to go here. But I've already seen a mouse in there this morning, so I'm not sure if these plants are going to stay in there overnight. But I've got my second succession of sweet peas there, some Achillea the Pearl, some Phacelia and a rosemary, some teeny tiny toad flax, and then some Nigella, and then 2 Lavateria. I've got most of those in the greenhouse, but I thought those 2 healthy specimens could come outside. And then the central fence, which was dividing the gardens, has been taken out. But last night, I was so paranoid, I ran this wire along the middle just to deter rabbits as much as I could. But there's no proper fence here anymore. This is just propped up by me. So you can see, if we look now, the stock fence is in. Okay, so what will happen is this roll of netting, which I've got here, sorry, I've got my shadow in the way. So this netting here, I'm going to cut probably into 3. I haven't counted the squares, but basically I'm going to cut it long ways like that, so that I've got 3 strips. That way I'll have enough, because I only need enough to stop the rabbits jumping under the fence. I don't need to worry about them jumping over the stock fence, because the wind membrane will stop them doing that, because the wind membrane is going to be on the inside of the stock fence, and this wire is going to be dug in on the outside of the fence. So it should be okay. I've already did this bit yesterday along here. I've dug that in, but that won't have any wind membrane, which is why I've used full width, because if I just did a little bit at the bottom, the rabbits would still be able to hop through. And in fact, I did the same here, although I've got a little hole there to do. I've just come along and put this plasticky stuff. I can't remember why I had this. I think I had this for the chickens, just to stop them jumping over. They chew this. I've tried to use this low down before and they just bite through it, so that's why it's up high, because I couldn't see an acrobatic rabbit like biting in midair, but you never know. But like I say, I've just got this tiny hole here to do something about. Cutting the wire is going to be a bit of a pain as well as the digging, but I can't put this job off anymore, so let's go and get on with it. You know, all those immaculate pictures on Instagram of people going in their gardens and cutting the beautiful flowers and putting them in a vase. The ideal on beautiful sunny weather is not all like that. I've got really fed up with digging. I'm only halfway through the long length, but I thought I would come and start cutting some wire. Just have a break and then I'll go back to digging, and then I'll cut some more wire and then go back to digging. So it's 36 squares, so I think I'm going to go for 3 strips. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I think 12 would be wide enough. 6, yeah, that'd be fine. So I'd cut 1 strip of the small mesh wire and I've laid that in the trench, and I've dug long enough for the first bit of wire. So all I'm going to do to attach this, because some of it's going to be held back by the turf and soil when I put it back, is I'm just going to use my staple gun to staple to the posts, and then I'm just going to use a couple of cable ties just to fix it to the stock fence. And as I've said, on the other side there's going to be the windbreak mesh, so the rabbits aren't going to be able to hop over. That stops them doing that. So this doesn't have to be really secure. It's not for keeping the horses or anything out. This is just to stop the rabbits digging under the fence. So I'm going to go ahead and start stapling this to the posts. Okay, so this is the wire just stapled to the posts. So now I just need to go along and cable tie. Okay, so I've gone along and put a few more cable ties along the top. Before I put the horses out here, I might well put a few more in. I don't want them putting their foot down between the two. Although what I will do, because I don't like my horses getting up to the fence, is this is electric fencing. And what I do, and I had done on the previous fence, was I use these insulators to run electric fencing, one line along the bottom of the fence and one line right along the top. So I don't think the horses would put their foot in there because they're going to be put off by the electric. The reason I use electric fencing is firstly to protect the fence. Fencing is really expensive, and if your horses are going to chew it or scratch their bums on it, you know, horses are big animals and they can cause a lot of damage. So I found that this has worked. I've been doing this for a few years, and I found that doing that, obviously that's just an example for you, I'll go along and put these insulators all the way along. It should protect the fence. Anyway, what I'm going to do, just because I'm trying to keep doing this so that I'm not getting tired of the digging, is I think I'll just do a few minutes more digging. Then I'm going to fill this trench in, then maybe do a bit more digging. Then I'm going to have a go with the wind membrane. So if I keep doing it in stages, it's better for my back really. So let's carry on. Ta-da! So that's the end we did earlier. That has all been stood in. I finished digging this bit now. I've cut the wire. So we'll get that put up, staple that on, and then I can move on to the windbreak. It's one of those jobs that you've really got to push yourself to finish it. But I know if I don't, there'll be a rabbit in there eating my plants. I just walked past the cold frame to get this shovel, and this is ironic, isn't it? We're doing all this rabbit proofing to stop rabbits eating my plant. And you know what I'm going to say, the mouse that was in there earlier, I'll show you what it's done in a minute when we go back that way, but it has eaten one of the lavataria I showed you, quite a few of the nigella, it's eaten those, hasn't touched the sweet peas, and it's had a little bit of go of the phacelia. And I'm right here and the cold frame is not very far away. I can see the cold frame from here, but obviously little mouse is quite comfortable in there. It's quite sheltered and secure. So definitely not putting anything else in the cold frame this year. I don't know how I'm going to harden stuff off. I think I'm going to have to harden stuff up high on a table. I just don't think I can put it on the ground because otherwise nothing's going to make it into the garden if it's all going to get eaten. So yeah, hardening off on a table from now on. I really don't know why I can't learn to put gloves on. They're right here. Bit late now. Of course, this is a completely pointless exercise until I put the windbreak up because a rabbit can still jump over. So we really need to try and get that done as well, but we're really running out of time. Okay, so that was one of the lavataria I showed you earlier, just bitten off at the stalk. That was the same as the Ami majus. And then you can see there's quite a few empty cells here in the nigella. And there are a few little bits of phacelia that are just bitten off. I obviously disturbed it mid-feast. So a little bit frustrating, but never mind. We'll think of something. It's starting to come together now. I can see the space, which is nice, without that centre fence there. Next week I'm hoping we'll do a bit more of a tour and I can show you what things we've got in the greenhouse and what I've got growing on, things like that. But let's go and have a look at this windbreak membrane now. We're going to use the one that's obviously already attached, and it used to go around the previous perimeter along here. So I'm guessing it will get about halfway along here, and then I have still got some on the roll from when I previously did it. I don't know if it's going to be enough or not, so we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so the windbreak comes with, you see that's the previous hole that was used there, so I've used the next one along. And if you look, you can see these holes where you can attach the cable ties. I found when I did it originally I didn't use enough cable ties and the wind took it down, so I'm going to make sure I put loads and loads on this time. Well, unfortunately, I've run out of time, so I haven't finished doing the windbreak. So I have to come back to that next week now. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.